Millions of fans believed Transformers G1 ended with the Rebirth. They were wrong. While America got a finale, Japan kept the story going for years. A secret continuation that changed its heroes, reinvented the franchise, and created one of the strangest stories of the entire G1 era. By late 1986, before the Rebirth had even been produced, Takara, the company behind Transformers in Japan, already knew that Hasbro and Sunbow had no plans to produce another season in the United States. When the Rebirth finally aired as the official close of G1, Japan had already rejected that ending. And the war they were about to tell wouldn't spare anyone. The new Japanese story. 6 years after the decisive battle against Unicron, a group of rebel headmasters joins forces with Galvatron's Decepticons in a direct assault on Cybertron. These aren't the heroes American audiences had grown attached to. They're an entirely new threat. Small Transformers who pilot massive, lifeless bodies called Transtectors, a concept the West had never seen before. The Autobots fight back, led by a new generation of headmasters of their own. But the situation gets worse when Vector Sigma, the supercomputer at the heart of Cybertron, begins to destabilize. Optimus Prime sacrifices himself again to contain the collapse, and once more he dies. But Optimus's death wouldn't be the worst tragedy of that war, because what happens next only makes it worse. Scorponok detonates a bomb that turns Cybertron into a burnt-out, lifeless husk, choosing to destroy his own species' homeworld rather than let its power fall into anyone's hands. Galvatron vanishes in the blast, presumed dead. For the first time in the franchise's history, the Transformers' own homeworld is gone. Not damaged, not occupied, gone. And losing Cybertron created a problem no Autobot knew how to solve. Rodimus Prime, with no world left to defend, departs to search for a new home for the Transformers, abandoning command altogether. And the vacuum Rodimus left behind would be exactly what the Decepticons were waiting for. Scorponok seizes the opportunity. He takes control of the Decepticons and crowns himself Megazarak, the new emperor, with a personal grudge against the very Autobot leader who once exiled him. And nobody in the United States knew any of this was happening. The war spreads for years. Refugees flee burning worlds. New alliances form out of desperation, fusing humans and machines together in ways no one had planned for. Entire planets become casualties of a conflict that, on American television, had already been declared over. New allies rise, new casualties pile up, entire battles American fans never witnessed. In the final confrontation, Scorponok is betrayed by his own ally, Six-Shot and Fortress Maximus. Supercharged by the combined energy of the entire Autobot army, finally brings him down. The War of the Headmasters ends there. At first, Japan's Transformers still looked familiar. The characters were different, but the war was the same. Autobots fought Decepticons. Cybertron still mattered. The story still felt like G1, but the next series would change everything. After Headmasters, someone in Japan made an even more radical decision. Not to continue the story, to start it over. The new series wouldn't use the classic characters as its protagonists. There would be no Optimus Prime, no Megatron, no Bumblebee, none of the faces America knew by heart. The entire cast would be rewritten from scratch, with new character designs that bore almost no resemblance to anything that came before. But the most radical change wasn't visual, it was conceptual. In every American season of Transformers, the war belonged to the robots. Humans were bystanders, occasionally helpful, but never essential. The fate of the planet was decided by beings from another world. In the United States, alien robots saved the humans. In Japan, the opposite was about to happen. A new character is about to enter the story, and everything the audience expects from him is wrong. He doesn't come from a factory on Cybertron. He doesn't arrive from another planet. He isn't built, isn't programmed, isn't switched on by some alien spark. He's a truck driver. Ginrai left Japan young, chasing freedom, and found on America's highways the solitude he'd always been looking for. Among truckers, he's known for his easygoing nature, the kind of man who gets along with everyone precisely because he never asks anyone to be anything they're not. There's nothing extraordinary extraordinary about his routine until the day a routine delivery leads him to discover a pair of bracelets, forgotten in his truck's glove compartment. The Master Braces. He has no idea what they are, no idea what they're about to do to him. An Autobot disguised as a human diver recognizes the bracelets and tries to explain their meaning, but before he can, the two are attacked by Decepticon warriors and sent plunging off a cliff. Falling, scrambling to escape the wrecked cab, Ginrai touches the bracelets by accident, and in seconds, an ordinary truck driver becomes the single most important transformer in the entire Japanese history of the franchise. Armor materializes around his body. The Transtector heals itself, merges with him, transforms. Ginrai discovers he can channel Chokon power, the energy that binds heaven, earth, and humanity, and uses it to drive off the enemy the very moment it awakens inside him. He doesn't train for this moment. He doesn't choose it, not at first. It simply happens to him, the way the worst and most defining moments in anyone's life usually do. The Optimus Prime American fans knew was born a robot. Japan's Optimus Prime was born human. In the United States, Optimus was a Cybertronian. In Japan, Optimus was a man who had to decide whether he was worthy of carrying a weight no human being was ever meant to carry. This new war didn't start with Ginrai. Years earlier, a group of Decepticons had crash-landed on Earth, chasing down a team of Autobots. Decades of disguise among humans, waiting for the moment to strike. Both sides spent that time hidden in plain sight, wearing human faces, living ordinary lives while waiting for a war neither side had forgotten about. When they finally reveal themselves, the Autobots are forced back into the fight, and they find unlikely allies. 3 human children who received the very same power that transformed Ginrai, each bonding with a Transtector of their own and becoming warriors far beyond their years. Now, humans are part of the war. On the Decepticon side, the first Godmaster warriors emerge, hunting for what would turn out to be the final piece of the puzzle. A search that drags the conflict across oceans, deserts, and eventually an isolated island base disguised as nothing more than a fortress on the water. The Decepticons are convinced that whoever finds this last piece first will tip the entire war in their favor. They're not wrong to be worried. And somewhere in the middle of all this, Overlord appears. For most of the series, he looks like the ultimate villain, relentless, calculating, brutal enough to seem unbeatable, capable of defeating Ginrai himself in open combat, forcing the Autobots to build an entirely new weapon just to stand a chance against him again. He wins. He keeps winning. Every defeat the Autobots hand him feels temporary, like a delay rather than a victory. Even when he's buried under rubble, even when his own allies question his judgment, he comes back again and again with no apparent limit to how much punishment he can endure. But even Overlord, for all his power, is only following orders from something bigger, a shadow behind the scenes, pulling the strings on both sides of the war from the very beginning, without anyone, not even the Decepticons themselves, fully grasping the scale of what was really at stake. The war reaches its darkest point when a rebuilt, mind-controlled version of an old enemy merges with the shadow, pulling all the strings, threatening to wipe out humanity itself. Ginrai, now elevated into an even more powerful form, fights a string of battles that take him from the surface of the moon to the peaks of the Matterhorn in Europe. He's wounded again and again by enemies who seem to recover faster than he does, who seem to have an answer prepared for every move he makes. There are moments where victory looks completely out of reach, where even his closest allies start to wonder if this is the fight that finally breaks him. Along the way, the Autobots suffer a betrayal that seemed impossible. A newly discovered ally, someone they believed had finally joined their cause, turns out to be a Decepticon infiltrator and destroys the hero's own operations base in a single devastating strike. With no headquarters, no numbers advantage, running on nothing but the will of someone with nothing left to lose, Ginrai faces the final enemy and wins. The threat that had been hiding behind Overlord, behind the entire war, finally disappears. But the ending isn't what you'd expect from a franchise about giant robots. When the conflict ends, the bond between the humans and their Transtectors breaks. Ginrai becomes an ordinary man again, and the Transtector that once carried his name now alive on its own, moves on without him, carrying the identity of Ginrai into space, alone, to keep fighting a war its former partner will never see again. The man who became Optimus Prime went back to being just a man. Millions of American fans believed the story ended with the rebirth. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, Headmasters kept fighting a war they thought they'd already seen the last of, and Masterforce reinvented everything this franchise was supposed to mean. In the United States, alien robots saved the humans. In Japan, it was the humans who saved the Transformers. And maybe that's the real reason this story feels so different, even now, decades later. It isn't just that the robots looked different, or that the battles happened somewhere else. It's that the entire idea of what a hero could be had quietly changed on the other side of the planet, while nobody back home was watching. An entire generation grew up watching Transformers without ever knowing this version of the story existed. If this video made you see Transformers from a different angle, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, because in the next video, we're going even deeper into one of the most disturbing mysteries of the 80s classics. Until then.